All right, joining us now is House Speaker Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, welcome.
Hey, Tony, great to be with you.
All right, let me begin with this. As we go into the weekend, let me ask you this question. Will Congress be home to celebrate the 249th birthday of the United States? Because it looks like the Senate is going to be giving the one big beautiful bill what some might call a political makeover. When they're done, will the House recognize it?
Well, the jury's still out on what those modifications are going to be. I've been talking with Leader Thune constantly through the process and with individual senators, encouraging them to change the House product as little as possible. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's very important. So at this moment, as you and I are recording this interview, we're still awaiting final text, and we will see. I put in all my encouragements to keep it as minor as possible in terms of the edits and changes. And if that's true, Tony, then they expect to pass it probably by early Saturday morning, maybe the wee hours of Saturday morning, and send it to us. I will have to wait about 72 hours for the bill to lay over before we can vote. But the plan would be, if it's in the shape that we can use it, then we'll pass it and approve it on probably Tuesday. And that would allow everybody time to get back home and celebrate with their families and constituents July 4th. It would also allow for the president to have a big, beautiful bill signing on Independence Day. And I certainly hope we can keep that deadline.
Well, I hope that happens. We're going to see. We're going to be watching very closely this weekend. On a somewhat related note, Zohran Mamdani won the Democratic primary for mayor in New York City. In a post on X, you wrote this: "The victory of radical, self-avowed socialist Zohran Mamdani proves again this is what the Democrats stand for." Now, here on This Week on Capitol Hill, you have more than 280 characters. Would you like to elaborate?
Well, yes, there's a lot to say about this. It's really, in one way, kind of shocking, and in one way, really not surprising at all. This is where the Democratic Party is headed. This individual is not only an avowed socialist, really a Marxist. He's also a raging anti-Semite, and a dangerous choice that would be elected mayor if the Democrats had their way. I mean, the idea that he would be the nominee of one of the major parties in this country is frightening. I mean, his proposals range from legalizing prostitution and drugs and having, injection sites funded by taxpayers to basically giving everything away, right? The government would just run grocery stores and pay for your rent and everything else. The problem is the taxpayers who would supposedly fund all that don't want to have anything to do with it. And so I guess the best commentary, the simplest, most concise summary was from Ron DeSantis and lawmakers in Florida who were trolling the New Yorker, saying, "Thank you so much for increasing our property values in Florida again," because the New Yorkers are going to flee. These people that supposedly would fund all this don't want to do it, and they're going to move to states like Florida and Texas and Tennessee and hopefully our home state, Louisiana, Tony, because there's common sense that prevails in those places. So it's a remarkable turn of events. It's a frightening thing for the future of the Democratic Party. It's great for Republicans, but it's not good for the country.
Well, it is great for Republicans to draw that sharp contrast, but indirectly it's a problem, I think, possibly for you when we look back at the reconciliation bill, because those policies that he's advocating for, everything's free, all the free stuff, this comes right back to the state and local tax issue, which has been a sticking point between the House and the Senate.
Yeah, it has, and of course that's been noted here. The reality is we do have good conservatives still elected in states like New York and California, New Jersey, and other places, and they're trying to hold the line there, and so we've got to get them reelected. So they've got to be able to deliver some relief to their constituents in order to hold those seats so that, Tony, we can keep the majority, and then by further extension, so President Trump can have 4 years to govern instead of 2. Because if we lose those seats in New York and California, President Trump will be impeached in January of 2027. I mean, we've already seen it. They're moving impeachment articles. They're trying to do it right now in their minority, in the Democrat minority in the House. We're defeating them so far. But if they take control, they will go after the president, and we will have a return to lawfare and absolute chaos in the economy and our society and everything else. So we've got to do what's necessary to keep that majority. Everything hangs on that.
Short term, absolutely right. Long term, when you look at the country where you see these policies, I mean, New York City, electing potentially, at least in this primary, a Marxist. You see California, the Governor Newsom. there is a real division that's taking place, and it is a patchwork of states that have pro-life, pro-family, pro-economic development policies. Where does America end up 20 years from now if we continue down this path?
Well, I mean, you won't be able, literally be able to afford to live in states like New York and California. I mean, these radical leftist governors and mayors are destroying these once great cities, these incredible states. It's very sad to watch, but it does, benefit the red states, the common sense states that are doing the right thing. I mean, the beauty of our system, our federalist system, is that, people get a choice. You can move. This is a free country. And I think a lot of people will. I don't know when these politicians are going to get the message. You would have thought the shellacking they took in 2024 would teach them, but it didn't.
And we saw these states lost congressional seats because as people moved, the allocation of the seats go. So, I mean, you're going to have the red states, hopefully, in the not too distant future, will have a lot more of these congressional seats and more influence on Capitol Hill.
That's right, because when the population moves, then you have to note that in the decennial census, and then that goes to apportionment for Congress. So as they lose population, and Florida does have now more people than New York, it's going to shift the whole dynamics of our politics. So it will move the country overall further to the right, to common sense. But you just feel sorry for the people that are stuck in these states who feel like they can't move. They got deep family roots, and they're having to suffer under these terrible policies.
Well, maybe we should give them vouchers to Louisiana so they can move there. Mr. Speaker, just a minute left. Very quickly, the situation in the Middle East, Israel and Iran, how should Congress be preparing for the future?
Well, we've got to take it very seriously. I mean, this was a very successful military strike that had to be done. The president used his Article 2 authority under the Constitution, and we've got to support that. I mean, we are on the verge of a real peace in the Middle East for the first time, really, in my lifetime. And we should applaud that, pray that it is successful, and do everything we can in terms of public policy to assure that it goes along. We've got to stand with Israel. I'm so glad we did. But we're also standing with the good versus the evil there. Iran was the greatest, largest sponsor of terrorism and the head of the snake, so to speak, in terms of terrorism around the world. Changing that situation there is huge for the whole world and certainly our country.
Yeah, this week is much different than much different place. The world is a much different place than it was last week. Mr. Speaker, I know you've got a long weekend ahead. We'll be praying for you. Thanks for joining us today.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.